Hello, my name is Chase Dallas, and today I'm going to be speaking just a little bit about both teleological and deontological ethical systems, and I will try to demonstrate a clear understanding of both of these ethical systems. Starting with teleology, the core idea in teleology, which is also known as consequentialism, is that actions are right and wrong because of the goal they are aiming to produce. It is a way of justifying actions. From this perspective, actions by themselves are morally neutral, so that something like lying, or stealing, or even killing is neither good nor bad. It can only be considered good or bad in relation to the consequences that it produces. Telos is Greek for goal or aim. Teleological and consequentialist can also be known as utilitarianism. Utilitarianism is producing the greatest amount of pleasure/happiness for the greatest number of people. Jeremy Bentham and John Stuart Mill were both utilitarianists. They believed that actions are right in proportion as they promote happiness, and actions are wrong as they produce the reverse of happiness. Now I'm going to speak a little bit about deontology. Deontologists study the action and not the consequence. What are my duties? What are my obligations? Deontological thinking is the opposite philosophical approach to ethics. Again, it does not simply say, this action is wrong and is always wrong, but rather, deontologists judge actions based on the principles involved. Did I mention that the word deontology derives from the Greek word for duty, or that which is binding? What is crucially important for deontologists in ethics are the principles involved, things like justice, duty, honor, honesty, and so on. First and foremost, deontology rejects the idea of basing moral decisions around consequences, because deontologists believe that if something is immoral, it does not suddenly become moral out of convenience or in order to achieve a goal. Kant was a deontologist. According to Kant, morality is about following absolute rules. These rules are universal, without exception. Throughout reason alone, one can locate moral truth. The one thing that is totally and completely good without exception is a good will. Kant's theory is an example of a deontological or duty-based ethic. It judges morality by examining the nature of actions and the will of agents, rather than the goals achieved. Kant insisted that as far as the moral evaluation of our actions was concerned, consequences did not matter. This deontological theory looks at inputs rather than the outcomes. Utilitarianism in law enforcement. Here is a good example. You are an officer that has been tasked to police a large pro-marijuana protest. Within that protesting group, you as an officer observes a person selling marijuana. Legally, you as an officer have the duty to charge that person with trafficking a controlled substance under the Controlled Drug and Substance Act, which is a serious indictable offense. However, from a utilitarianism position, the officer may elect not to arrest and charge the suspect for these two reasons. The act of not arresting would make more pro-marijuana group happier compared to the number of people who would be unhappy with that decision. Since we can now reasonably say that society, at large, is becoming more relaxed about marijuana use, and the movement to legalize marijuana is strong and getting stronger, this officer would have to recognize this and make his or her decision accordingly. For the second reason, if the arrest was made for trafficking, the consequence would likely be a serious violent confrontation with a large pro-marijuana group. The arrest by the police officer would not make the majority of these individuals happy. So, from a utilitarianism perspective, this police officer should consider what the consequences would be if there were a rule that everyone was allowed to smoke and sell marijuana. Deontology and law enforcement. How can deontological theory assist law enforcement in moral dilemmas? Well, think about the importance of duty. Law enforcement officers are required, at many times in their career, to fulfill their duty no matter what the personal costs. When confronted with a duty that they may not want to perform, that officer should consider that they agreed to perform these duties when they swore to their oath. These duties must be performed by someone, and when this duty falls to them, they must follow through with their duty. For example, I am a patrol officer who does not want to criminally charge an acquaintance. I now must consider my duty and the oath that I took when I joined this agency. The caveat to duty is that the duty must be done in good faith. That is, the duty should not be performed if the officer is aware that there is a lack of morality in the duty. Thank you for listening to my project. I hope you learned a lot, and I hope you enjoyed it. I would also like to thank my Con 34 teacher, Denise Nielsen, for assigning this topic. I thoroughly enjoyed it, I learned a lot, and I had fun making this video. Thank you very much.